The Detroit Institute of Arts is one of the most famous art museums in the country. As a visitor, you can spend hours inside and outside of the museum. The awe-inspiring architecture and outdoor pieces on display, like many outdoor arts like the replica of Rodin's The Thinker, are some of the picture-perfect spots. It houses works by celebrated artists like Picasso, Rembrandt, Van Gogh, and many others. A CCTV, closed-circuit television, camera is not just used for video surveillance anymore. New features of the latest models allow for two-way communication as well. Once the camera is linked to our mobile phones via an application, we can use it to send or receive audio in real time. It's quite popular with parents who want to keep a watchful eye on their toddlers, and also with keen pet parents. Research means detailed, systematic, and comprehensive study of a problem. Here, the details of the marketing problems are collected and studied, conclusions are drawn and suggestions, recommendations, are made to solve the problems quickly, correctly, and systematically. In marketing research, marketing problems are studied in depth and solutions are suggested to solve the problem relating to the product, market competition, sales, and promotions. Our 11-year research effort can be looked at in two ways. First, we have addressed the urgent surgical problem of treating the massively burned patient and keeping that patient alive. Secondly, we have treated skin loss in somewhat of a basic way. Rather than constructing an organ and putting it in the patient, we have managed to construct a biological mold, because that's what the artificial skin is. This biological mold is used by the patient to regrow or rebuild the skin that was lost in injury. Well, when I talk about the ocean economy, I'm speaking specifically about a dataset that's produced by NOAA in cooperation with the Labor Department and with the Bureau of Economic Analysis. It's called Economics National Ocean Watch and it has time series data for 6 economic sectors that depend on the resources of the oceans and Great Lakes. And when I say depend on, it's a couple of meanings. One is more directly dependent through use of the resource, things like offshore oil and gas and commercial fishing, or it depends on it because it needs to happen in close proximity to the ocean, things like tourism and marine transportation. Data collection plays a very crucial role in statistical analysis. In research, there are different methods to gather information, all of which fall into two categories, i.e. primary data and secondary data. Primary data is that which is collected for the first time by the researcher, while secondary data is data already collected or produced by others. The most important difference between the two is that primary data is factual and original, while secondary data is an analysis or interpretation of primary data. A stressor is anything that causes the release of stress hormones. Physiological stressors are those that put strain on our body, for example, very cold/hot temperatures, injury, chronic illness, or pain. Psychological stressors are events, situations, individuals, comments, or anything we interpret as negative or threatening, like not being able to find a babysitter for your sick child when you cannot take time off work. Remember, absolutely everyone exposed to an absolute stressor will find it stressful. For a relative stressor, situations are relatively stressful only for some. Consumers are trying to do the right thing by recycling, but they don't always know what or how to recycle. In fact, about 1/3 of what gets tossed in curbside recycling containers doesn't belong there. That's 1 out of every 3 items. So, what does belong in the recycling bin? There are 3 main categories of recyclables: paper and cardboard, metal cans including aluminum, and plastic bottles and jugs. The thinker was originally conceived not in heroic isolation, but as part of Rodin's monumental Gates of Hell, a pair of bronze doors intended for a museum of decorative arts in Paris. Although the doors were never cast during the sculptor's lifetime, they nevertheless provided Rodin a rich source of ideas for individual figures and groups that he worked and reworked for the rest of his career. The theme for Gates of Hell was taken from Dante's Inferno, and this figure, planned for the lintel on top, was initially conceived as the poet himself. His nudity, though, marked him as a universal embodiment of every poet, every creator who draws new life from the imagination. By 1896, however, it had become simply the thinker, a still more universal image that reveals in physical terms the mental effort and even anguish of creativity. As Rodin himself described, "What makes my thinker think is that he thinks not only with his brain, with his knitted brow, his distended nostrils and compressed lips, but with every muscle of his arms, back, and legs, with his clenched fist and gripping toes." Rodin's thinker exists today in many casts and sizes. More than 50 are known in this size, which is the size of Rodin's original handmade clay model.